Yeah, what is going on, everybody? It is yours truly, the Ace, here with episode 5 of season 2 of Behind the Teams, and we are talking about the New York Jets. Gunny from New York Jets Situation Report is in the building. How you doing today, man?
Hey, Ace, what's good, brother, man? I appreciate the invite, man. Every opportunity I get to talk New York Jets, I'm always down. Me and you have been chopping it up for a couple of weeks now, trying to get this locked down. So finally happy we were able to get scheduled that matches up for both of us. Let's talk ball, baby.
Exactly, and I appreciate you for popping on. This is the first time I got to wear my Giants. I got to represent for New York as well. You know what I'm
I
saying?
feel you.
But
I feel you.
yeah, I like your background, by the way, man. It looks dope.
Appreciate you,
Nice
bro.
little setup. The lights really do it off and everything, man. It looks like a dope setup.
Yeah, appreciate that, man. Listen, the wife took all of the memorabilia I've accumulated over the years when I started doing this content creation thing, and she created what you see behind me. I got to give props to the wife, man. She was doing that. I came home one day from work, and she had set this up for me. So she was looking out, you know what I'm saying, contributing to the channel. So I got to show the love to the wife for putting it all together.
Okay, very nice, very nice. All right, so we're gonna jump right into it. Make sure you guys hit that like and subscribe. The New York Jets 2023 season, high expectations, just acquired Aaron Rodgers, future Hall of Fame quarterback. Ended up finishing out 7-10. The hype behind last season, like I said, you could just see it all throughout, the off season. Aaron Rodgers gets traded there. The expectations go through the roof. He's coming out day one with the American flag. Everybody's hype. I know you were too. 4 plays in, season was ultimately over at the end of the day. What were your thoughts overall, though? Not just on the Rodgers situation, but on the New York Jets in 2023.
Um, I think disappointment is putting it mildly. Again, like you stated yourself, man, like we had such high hopes going into the season. This New York Jets have been a just as in shambles in terms of the quarterback position. The acquisition of Aaron Rodgers, I think, kind of blinded a lot of us to some of the other concerns we might have had on offense. But you know what? We had Aaron Rodgers, so the assumption was, and it wasn't just Jets fans. You know, there was a lot of support from analysts and media personalities in regards to what the Jets could be last year because, again, they had that top five defense and that top five special teams, but the offense was significantly lacking. Could Aaron Rodgers have potentially won us a few more games last year? I believe wholeheartedly he could have. But unfortunately for us, we got him for 4 snaps. And the game plan behind Aaron Rodgers was just atrocious. I think Joe Douglas, man, and the coaching staff dropped the ball on that one. I think the fact of the matter is, had we had any competent level NFL caliber quarterback on that roster last year, in terms of what that defense was able to do and the special teams was able to do, I think we would have gone ahead and won a few more games, man. Maybe potentially break that freaking playoff drought. I don't think we would have gotten much further than a wild card berth if we had competent QB play. There were some concerns on the offensive side of the ball that we just didn't see because we were so excited and blinded by the fact that Aaron Rodgers was our quarterback. So to say disappointment, we're putting it mildly, man. But man, talk about a heartbreak just to see that man go down in 4 snaps. It was a disappointing season to say the less. But it also shows that we've got some dogs in the offensive side of the ball in terms of a Garrett Wilson, in terms of a Brees Hall, Tyler Conklin. We definitely got dogs when it comes to freaking the defense because those guys were on the field consistently and constantly trying to keep games as close as possible for this meager offense to be able to go ahead and put up some semblance of points to make it a game. So you looked at the toughness of this team, and a lot of people will sit there and they'll knock Coach Sala, and I don't believe he's perfect by any means. But when you have no quarterback and you have no offensive line and you win 7 games, and 4 of those 7 games, or I'm sorry, 5 of those 7 games were against freaking playoff teams, listen, you can't knock that, right? Like, we know the floor of this team is 7 wins with no quarterback, no offensive line. That's a fact. Like, we've seen that in back-to-back years. But yeah, it's definitely not where we wanted to be. Extremely frustrating to say the least. But yo, it's a new year, man. Like, so again, it's July. We get ourselves pumped up again, and we'll talk about the next season.
I just, the moniker of, the Jets will always jet is always out there, like something is
Yeah.
going to happen and stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, dude, you guys were, legit contenders last year. You know what I'm saying? Aaron Rodgers stays healthy, definitely wins you at least double digit games. You know what I'm saying? Because quarterback play has been an issue for you guys. Like, yeah, you guys got some good young talent, a
Yeah.
great defense. My issue too is, and I know a lot of Jet fans too, Robert Saleh though, like defensive minded head coach. My only issue is this: when you have a defensive minded head coach, you have to make sure your offensive coordinator
It's top
is
tier.
top tier and can
Yep.
handle the offense, because it at times it just seems like obviously the team is defense focused. Your
Mhm.
defense is one of the best defenses like for the past couple years already. So you have to have that good offensive coordinator to be able to hold it down. I don't feel like you guys really like Zach Wilson is Zach Wilson. You know what I'm saying? You guys wasted that pick on him. He's out of
Yeah.
there. But you guys really didn't get the most out of him. I don't feel like he was really given a chance. Me as a Giants fan, I'm in the same boat as you with Daniel Jones. Like when you put these guys in a position to fail, how could you really rag on them when they haven't been given the best opportunity to succeed? You know what I'm saying? And quarterback position is the toughest position in football, and it's a lot of pressure on that. But you guys do have a lot of offensive weapons, like Garrett Wilson, one of the best receivers in the league. I drafted him in fantasy football last year. I could have just like played it and see that scenario with him and Aaron Rodgers. I know how much Aaron Rodgers loves to force feed his number one receiver. When he goes down, that kind of just it just didn't seem like you guys really had a contingency plan, but it gave guys like Brees Hall an ability to step up last year, who he played, coming off his injury. He played phenomenal. You know what I'm saying? He definitely established himself as probably one of the best backs in the league and one of the best young players in the league as well.
Yeah, Brees Hall for me, man. I think that's one of the bright spots on our offense, right? Seeing what that kid was able to accomplish with really no supporting cast, no kind of help
Hmm.
whatsoever. He's another
And no
reason why
line
I
too,
think
like you said.
no line, bro, no O line, no quarterback. Like he faced more stack boxes than any other running back in football last year, and the dude finished the season second in all-purpose yards behind only Christian McCaffrey at the running back position. Right, he's the top 5 guy in the league last year. It's mind-boggling to me when you see that kind of talent and like you said, right, in essence being wasted, because these guys don't stay young forever. We're not going to be able to keep all these guys together forever. Let's be honest. I look at that 2021 draft class and I'm like, man, these guys are all going to need to get paid here really soon, and we're going to have to sacrifice somebody here or there. And yet last year to not have a contingency plan behind Rodgers made zero sense to me. And the fact of the matter is, we had Nathaniel Hackett in the building because that, I believe, was more of a Hackett and Aaron Rodgers package, not because Hackett is this genius freaking offensive coordinator. And I think we dropped the bag on that as well. We brought in Nathaniel Hackett only because we knew he was going to bring in Aaron Rodgers. I don't think he's done enough in the last several years for you to feel confident about his ability as an offensive coordinator. This is still the same man that told us midway through the season, "Oh, wait, did you guys know Brees Hall can catch footballs out of the backfield too?" In a press conference, you look at that and you're like, "You've got to be kidding me, man." So there leaves very little to be desired when it comes to Nathaniel Hackett. I'm hoping with Aaron Rodgers being his quarterback, Tyrod Taylor backing him up, it simplifies the game even for him as the OC to be able to go ahead and put points on the board. But the fact of the matter is, between those two guys, there's about 30 plus years of experience of quarterback play. So I think they'll be able to make their adjustments as necessary, tailored to what the defense is showing them when they get behind center. Hopefully, it's Aaron Rodgers for all 22 games this year. You know what I'm saying? That's what I hope for. But again, 40 years old, coming off that Achilles injury, you've got to be level headed when you think about what he's going to be able to do. Um, 40 is old in football years.
Oh
That's
yeah.
what it's old in football years. Tom Brady, I think, kind of gave us the expectation or the ideology that it's possible to still play elite past that age, but he's the exception, not the rule.
Hmm.
Can Aaron Rodgers be the second guy to do it? We don't know. We're about to find out this year. But yeah, man, I agree, man. I think Nathaniel Hackett was a concern for us last year too, and the fact that when you have a guy like Salah whose focus is primarily on the defensive side of the football, you need a top tier offensive coordinator on the other side. He needs to be, in other words, head coach 2.0, right? The second head coach, but for the offense.
Yep. Oh yeah, absolutely. To your point of playing this in the 40s, Tom Brady was an anomaly.
He
Like
was.
we don't, and then especially with his style of play, boded well for him playing,
Yeah.
deep into, his career. You guys, the biggest issue, and it would be a good segue going into this next topic of your biggest needs going into the off season. You know what I'm saying? Do you feel like you
Mhm.
addressed it via the draft and via free agency? I think it was definitely offensive line. You know what
Without
I'm saying?
question.
Like I clamored to Jet fans because I'm a Giants fan, but I'm from New York City. I have a lot
Yeah.
of Jets people around me,
Yeah.
cousins, stuff like that, brothers that love. My nephew's a huge Jet fan. I know he can't wait for this episode to come out. I was like, dude, you guys got to invest in offensive line.
Yep.
A lot of Jet fans didn't want that. They wanted the sexy pick. They
Yep.
wanted either a Dunze to drop or they wanted Brock Bowers
Brock
because
Bowers.
all they see is the flash. But
Yeah.
realistically, in the NFL, if you don't have that, if you don't have the fat boys on both sides of the line, you're not gonna win.
You're not going
So
for it.
yeah, exactly. So I thought y'all first round pick was a great pick, you know what I'm saying, what you guys definitely needed. What did you think overall as far as like your off season this year and like the biggest needs were, and do you feel like you guys addressed it?
Yeah, man. Listen, first and foremost, I couldn't agree with you more. I think you nailed it on the head in regards to what the Jets needed to do coming into the offseason. It was also my belief. One thing I did state whenever the season ended was just like, there is no freaking way we're going to be able to replace three of these bums off of our offensive line, because I really felt we needed to rehaul the entire offensive line minus center and our left guard. So
Mm-hmm.
lots of concerns there across the fan base, and any content creator you watch on the Jets were telling you like this offensive line is just trash. Matt O'Leary did an incredible freaking breakdown of what the offensive line for the New York Jets have looked like over the last several years. And it was, again, very, very eye-opening to see just how bad and abysmal it's been. So offensive line, without question, was the focus point. And in a million years, if you had asked me freaking when the season ended, do I believe the New York Jets were going to go ahead and revamp their offensive line in one offseason, I would have told you there is no way. We were strapped for cash in terms of the cap space. Our draft pick had dropped down, I think, to number 10 at that time, too. So trading back would have hurt us. We were in a perfect spot to get one of those top guys, but the Brock Bowers people were coming out of the woodworks, and there was concerns about that. But for me, Joe D got respect, right? Fell asleep on day one, didn't do much, was pissing off. I'm sorry, I was making a lot of people angry.
No, you're good.
But you
You close
find
your
out,
mouth. Yeah, you can do what you got.
all right, cool.
Yeah.
I didn't want to, you know what I'm saying?
No, you're
I'm
good.
in
You're
your
good.
house. I'm in your house.
I appreciate that. Thank you. Yeah, you're good.
No problem, no problem. But like, he was pissing off a lot of individuals not doing anything in day one. But then, man, when the dude woke up, all of a sudden you bring in Morgan Moses, a guy last year with one arm finishes a top 10 freaking right tackle in the NFL. Then I'm thinking to myself, David Bakatari should be pretty cheap. Yeah, he's injury prone, but at least you bring somebody in there when he can give you a few games. He's healthy. And the people were talking about Tyron Smith. I thought to myself, that's a dream. There's no way we're going to get Tyron Smith. The guy's coming off of an all-pro season. He's going to warrant way too much money. We don't have the cap space. Next thing you know, you're announcing Tyron Smith as the New York Jets' new left tackle signing on a one-year deal. And shocked that the Cowboys will let him leave right now when they're still trying to evaluate whether Dak Prescott is going to be him or not. Two, that he would take us an incentive-laden deal to be a New York Jet, because again, we didn't have the money, man, or the space to bring a guy of that caliber into the fold. Then you're talking about the trade for freaking John. I'm not the trade, but we brought in John Simpson as well. So right there in the first 2 weeks of the offseason free agency period, Joe Douglas did what many thought was impossible, right? He rebuilt our offensive line with quality talent. Quality talent. I'm still shocked by it. I don't know how he was able to pull it off. I think Morgan Moses and Tyron Smith are light years ahead of what we had at those spots. Not moving around Elijah Vera Tucker is going to go a long way as well, but he's able to stay securely in that right guard position, so that way he doesn't have to move around from tackle to guard. To appease a broken down freaking line. And then Tippmann finished out the year last year as on the all rookie team, and a guy who started to show progress towards the back half of the year at the center position. So you look at this roster now, and you're seeing the trajectories of the people that are still on it, Tippmann and Avera Tucker, and the talent level of a Morgan Moses and a Tyron Smith and John Simpson, who last year took a massive step in his development as well. And you're like, wow, Joe Douglas in the offseason really was able to rebuild this just offensive line. Again, you got a 40-year-old quarterback, like you just stated earlier. The reason Tom Brady could play so long is because the Patriots prioritized the offensive line. The Buccaneers prioritized the offensive line. And for us to take this approach with this much talent was very, very exciting to see. And then this is when the whole thing started happening. Me, even with all those moves, I was still screaming, we needed to go offensive line. We needed to go offensive line. Olu was the second guy on my board for the offensive line, of course. And I didn't think we were going to do it. I started to really wonder whether or not we were going to go the offensive line route, since we had done so much in free agency to rebuild the line. The Bowers boys were coming out the woodworks, really clamoring for a guy like Brock Bowers. I don't see it. I didn't see the hype. I don't see the appeal of a 6'2" guy built like a fullback who's not going to be faster than freaking linebackers at the NFL level, and he's not going to be much bigger than the safeties and cornerbacks at the freaking NFL level that he had as an advantage for himself in college. So for me, the whole thing, like, oh man, I'm seeing Kyle Pitts all over again. He was supposed to be generational too. What has he really done in the NFL? So I really thought Brock Bowers in the first round was going to be too high, especially not in the top 10. I wanted freaking Odu Fashanu. That was my guy, right?
Yeah.
Now if it wasn't going to be Odu Fashanu, I was okay. With the dude from I'm having a brain fart now. Penn State. He went to the Chargers, I believe.
Alt.
Joe Alt. Thank you.
Joe Alt,
Joe Alt.
yeah.
Yeah, love Joe Alt
I
too. Love them.
Yeah, I didn't think you guys were in a position to get him. Alt was
No,
definitely going
no,
number one. Unless you guys
100%.
traded up. Yeah. I thought it was going to be, looking back at your draft, I thought it was going to be a Dunze. I really did.
Dunze, 100%.
But I think,
so
I thought that if a Dunze was on the board, you guys were going to take him. Where it changed was Atlanta messing things up. Because Atlanta taking Penix, and then all of a sudden the Bears are like, oh, whoa,
yeah,
okay. We're good. We got a quarterback and a receiver in the top 10.
Top 10.
And then so I thought, y'all were in that, but dude, I'm right there with you on all the points you made. I thought Fasano was the right move. I kept clamoring. I said offensive line, you guys got to go O-line because that's the biggest weakness of your team. Still a lot of question marks on y'all O-line though, because like the biggest thing with Tyron Smith is his injuries. Like once you have that injury history, it's kind of on there, and he has like every other, he hasn't played a full season in the longest, but every other year it's like he plays double digits, then he doesn't. Then he plays double digits, then he doesn't. You know what I'm saying? That's why I think maybe the Cowboys were okay with letting him go. But I'm speaking from a Giants fan as well. It's just something about our teams that we cannot get the offensive line right at all. I don't know if it's MetLife Stadium. I don't know if it's that shitty turf that we play on. That both of our owners need to stop being so cheap and invest in that shit.
Big grass,
because,
man.
Yeah, exactly. How many times do you have to see guys blow out ACLs and
Achilles,
Achilles, everything? Before you're like, okay, let's go ahead and invest in it. That's a different story right there. But, it's like, especially you're bringing on a guy on an injury-prone, like Tyron Smith I'm looking at, on a field that gives a lot of those lower body injuries, you're having him. So, which is very scary. But yeah, our teams can't get the offensive line right. And we've invested top quality picks in them, but we just keep swinging and missing. But hopefully, the Giants have tried to fix theirs. Hopefully you guys have fixed yours as well. And we'll see what happens.
Yeah, 100%. Like the turf to me, I'm shocked. Like there's literally the team players that call it the MetLife turf. It's a turf monster. Like they say when they go in there, what's the biggest, challenge you're going to face, playing against the Jets or the Giants. And it's usually, the turf. The turf is one of the biggest things every player talks about. I don't understand it. You've got two billionaire owners who you're going to invest all this money and assets into these players, but you won't give them grass. Even if the analytics say like, oh, it's about a 55%, 45% difference. The mindset alone, I think, is worth it, right? If you're going to give your players peace of mind to go out there and feel comfortable enough to play 100% all the time on your freaking field, get the grass. Yep. Get the damn grass. I don't understand how, and I understand the concept as well with two teams in there. It's a lot of freaking maintenance and blah. You're freaking billionaires. Stop it. You're freaking billionaires. You're investing in your team. Could you imagine if you could give us a healthy year, Giants and Jets fans, of our favorite players to watch for an entire year? That's more seats in the butts. You can go ahead and probably raise the prices. We'll still freaking pay them. Heck, we'll probably be the ones paying for the freaking grass anyway because you're going to raise the prices to recoup some of that cost, and we're going to pay them. We're some of the most loyal fans you're going to find in all of sports.
Oh,
so I don't get it, bro. I'm with you, dog. It never made sense to me. And what pisses me off the most, I know this is a tangent. This is a complete tangent. But they just did all grass for freaking the Major League Soccer.
Yeah.
So we know you can do it.
Yeah.
Major League Soccer right now just did all grass. But when it comes to football players who've been asking for it for years, apparently it's too much of a cost.
Yeah, exactly. And like you said, we got two billionaire owners, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's our house, but you guys are tenants there is what I always say. You guys rent from us, but it's just like it's enough is enough already. How many times do you have to see a guy just running by himself and then just pulling up before you're like, okay, enough is enough. But hopefully knocking on wood that
Yeah,
it doesn't happen to any major players this year, because at some point in time somebody's going to get pulled up and stuff like that. But like you had said with soccer, I mean, I think it's the time of the year as well. Obviously,
yeah.
natural grass is harder to keep up with during
The
the
fall and
we're
winter.
in a colder climate too. You know what I'm saying?
True.
But do what you got to do. Invest in your team. Like, some things have been upgraded though under these new organizations like
This
Joe
is true.
Shane and you
Yeah.
guys. Some things
Uh-huh.
have been upgraded, but I think it's a process. You know what I'm saying? Like, but they just got to get that shit done.
Facts.
So
Facts.
so all right. So we talked about and then obviously we're still in the off season. What are your thoughts on Tyrod Taylor? Because we were talking about Aaron Rodgers
Yeah.
health issues. You guys also brought in a guy in Tyrod Taylor that also has health issues as well.
Right.
It's hard for him to stay on the field. Are you concerned at all by that?
100%. I'd be lying to you if I told you I didn't have concerns about the injury aspect of our roster, right? Like in terms of a lot of the big names we brought in this offseason, like you said, Tyron Smith, Tyrod Taylor, who I believe are going to be two important components to the Jets' success. Because again, another Aaron Rodgers goes down. Knock on wood that happens, but let's just say he does go down again. We can't have the fiasco that was last year where we had no real backup quarterback behind Rodgers to go ahead and take the field. So bringing in Tyrod Taylor, I think, was huge. Um, but yeah, so Tyrod Taylor's another one, man. He's been one of those guys who's dealt with some fluke injuries
Oh
and a
yeah.
lot of like rib injury. Like it's just been like core injuries. He's had to handle quite a bit throughout his career. Um, I want to say the offensive line aspect, if they can stay healthy, I think Tyrod Taylor can go ahead and do some damage. I think as a quarterback, he's like a perfect 500 all time. He's got a 1.8 to 1 touchdown to interception ratio. I'll take that. You know what I'm saying? Like, he would still be one of the best quarterbacks the Jets have seen play football for them since, God, it's embarrassing to say this, but like Mark Sanchez. It's been a while since we've had that kind of competent play as our starter, let alone as our
Yeah.
backup. So for me, the injury concerns are 100% there, especially talking about playing on MetLife turf, right? Like the injury concerns for me are going to be there. I'm going to watch every game holding my breath because,
Of
you said,
course.
at any given moment, you don't know. It could happen. But I would like to believe that the football gods are not going to curse us with losing both our starter and our backup quarterback in the same season. But they've been very creative in times past, so I can only hope that it doesn't
Yeah.
happen. But yeah, definitively, of course, if Aaron Rodgers goes down, I think we can all agree if you lose your starting quarterback and your Super Bowl hopes are pretty much done. I think Tyrod is good enough to go ahead and take the Jets to the playoffs. If he goes down, I really don't know if Jordan Travis is ready or to take the helm.
A
So
lot
then
a lot of Jet fans like him. They love
I,
him
I
is what
love
I'm hearing. Hmm.
I love him. I love what I saw in college. He was who I wanted for them to go ahead and bring in the later rounds if he was still available. I was very shocked he was available in the fifth, but the fact that we were able to bring him into the building, to me, I think he's a great developmental piece. Who's a guy who understands struggle, understands how he has to work to get to where he wanted to be, and he's worked and earned everything he's ever gotten. And I think those kind of mindsets Tom Brady had to work for everything. I'm not saying Jordan
Yeah.
Travis is going to be Tom Brady, not remotely, but in terms of the mentality, that being there, this is a kid who's humble. He wants to learn, and he's got gifts, man. He's got talent. He's got a lot of athletic gifts, things you can't teach. I think getting him behind Tyrod Taylor, getting him behind Aaron Rodgers, putting him in that quarterback room with those guys, 30 plus years of experience, trying to go ahead and help this guy get a grasp the game at the next level. I like the possibilities of Jordan Travis. I really do, man. Call me hopeful, but let's be honest. This is a guy who, when he went down, his undefeated FSU team still went undefeated, but they pulled him from the playoffs because of his presence alone. He wasn't going to be there to said, yeah, without Jordan Travis, we don't believe, you know what I'm saying, you're going to be able to compete at the playoff level. And that goes to show the kind of skill set he brings to the table. So I'm a fan of him, but again, I don't want to force him out there like we've had to do in times past, force quarterbacks out there when they weren't ready. Because I think in all actuality, man, there's a process, and you can either break a guy or you can go ahead and
Absolutely.
develop a guy. So
Absolutely.
hopefully we go ahead and don't see him this year.
Yeah. 2023 was such a weird year because it really made these organizations have to realize you need multiple quarterbacks. How many quarterbacks went down
Facts.
last year?
A
And
lot.
the backup quarterback became such a hot commodity. And, Tyrod Taylor was ours. You know what I'm saying? I
Mhm.
am very, versed in what he can bring to the table, what he can and can't do as well. Um, We went ahead and got Drew Lock. You have to, man, and you have to
Yep.
invest heavily in quarterback depth. We got to start, dude, we got as far as Tommy DeVito. Like we had to get down to our
Yeah.
third string with how injuries were,
Yeah.
and it wasn't just our teams; it was league wide. That Burrow went down, Watson went down. You were losing quarterbacks left and right, is
Left
what it
and
seemed
right.
like.
Yep.
So,
We went to our fourth string quarterback at one point.
yep. That's why it's like people like look at the Bears. I mean, look at the Steelers who I just had on, and they're like, "What are you guys doing?" Dude, they might have the right move with having Justin Fields as their
And,
backup because you just never
yep.
know.
That
So,
I My brother is a huge Steelers fan, man, and I was when they got Justin Fields, I was actually I was upset. I was like, man, y'all got Russell Wilson and Justin Fields now. This is again, I think Russell Wilson's best years are behind him,
oh,
but I'm
absolutely,
not in that boat to where I believe like he still can't play competent NFL football as a quarterback. And I think you put a good running game around him and a good defense and competent coaching. And I'm a big fan of the coaching of the Steelers.
oh yeah,
I think the Steelers are going to be I'm going to that game actually this year, Steelers versus Jets, but I think
mm,
that it's going to be a sneaky team because they're not getting a lot. You're not hearing about them. You're not hearing about the Steelers. But
yeah,
I'm actually worried about them in the AFC. Like, things are too quiet about what those guys can bring to the table. They had a great draft too.
yeah, oh yeah. And as long as they got Mike, I say this all the time. As long as they got Mike Tomlin, I
Tomlin.
don't count them out. So,
Nope. Same here.
yeah.
Same here.
So we gotta talk about Hassan Reddick. Let's talk about that real quick. That was a
Yeah.
good pickup for you guys.
Mhm.
Obviously, you guys lost Bryce Huff, who played who kind of emerged to and kind of came like a household name in Bryce Huff.
Yeah.
Then obviously you guys lost him, Hassan Reddick. What's going on with that situation? Obviously, he's talking about holding out because of contract wise or something like that. So what's
Yeah.
going on with him?
Yeah, so it all boils down to when Joe D decided to go ahead and reach out to the Eagles, they were given the opportunity to speak with Hassan Reddick, right? And all indications state that Joe D explained to Hassan, listen, we don't have the money right now to go ahead and restructure you, but we are going to put you next to Quentin Williams. You know what I'm saying? We're going to give you the
Mm-hmm.
snap counts to go ahead and really go off. We would love to go ahead and talk extension with you next season. Or if not with us, with what you'll do with on this defensive line, you're going to go ahead and still get your bag. Hassan Reddick apparently was on board. He just loved the opportunity to come out there, and he apparently was excited about being part of the Jets defensive line. He said, "Yeah, that's fine. I mean, we're not going to restructure this year. We'll figure it out next year." Came through. I guess between then and the time minicamp came around, somebody got in his ear, and all of a sudden, he's now, I guess, holding out to potentially get that money. But I'm gonna be honest with you, man. I don't think he's gonna hold out for training camp. I don't think he's gonna, and if he does for some training camp, he's going to be there to play come season's opener. This is a guy who's literally fighting for every dollar he can get. I
Yeah.
don't think he's gonna go ahead and start costing himself money because he was told by the organization from jump, we don't have the money right now to restructure you. So we're going to do so if we're interested after the season, or if not us, some team's gonna pick you up. I don't think he's going to let money slip between his fingers. So I think he'll be available. I'm in the boat of not extending him. I've been on record saying, listen, I love Hassan Reddick. I think he's done some incredible things, but again, at 29 years old, going to be 30, he's going into that time of his career where the decline is right around the corner, and you don't know when it's going to hit. For a guy who's a speed rusher as well, we've seen those guys fall off cliffs. You know what I'm saying? Once they hit that 30, 31-year old range. So I love the group we currently have right now. I think JJ is going to be a force, so I want to make sure we pay him. We got to pay Sauce Gardner. We got to pay Garrett Wilson. We got to pay Brees Hall, and I don't think we can afford all of them. So
No.
paying a guy like Hassan Reddick right now to me would I think hinder that even more. So we would potentially have to give up yet another one of these guys, and I'm not ready to do that. So for me, I'm okay with freaking Hassan Reddick if he doesn't want to go ahead and come to training camp or he doesn't want to come play games during the season. But he'll be there before the season ends. There's no way he's going to go ahead and not show up by week 10. And I like Will McDonald. I like freaking JJ. I love the addition of Kinlaw. I think that we'll be okay on the defensive line wise. But yeah, I think ultimately somebody got in his ear, man, and I get it for what he's accomplished. I think he's like the fifth ranked defensive end over the last like 4 years, behind some elite names who've all gotten paid recently. So I understand his frustration, man, and he's got to go ahead and bet on himself. But he did that with the Eagles, right? And we don't know if that level of production is still in him at age 29 going into age 30. And that's where I'm like, you haven't done that for the Jets. So the Eagles didn't want to pay you. And I believe, the Eagles have a very, very high IQ freaking front office.
They're intelligent.
So,
Yeah, they are.
right. So, like, if they saw something as to why they didn't want to invest that kind of capital into you, then I'm on board with thinking like I think maybe they're onto something, right? So I'm on board with them just riding this thing out. If we want to go ahead and restructure his 1 year deal to make sure he makes more money, vice it being all incentive laden, let's go ahead and guarantee some of it. I'm on board with that, but I'm not. I would rather not do an extension with Hassan Reddick because I want to go ahead and keep our own guys at our in house.
Yeah. Um, yeah, man, because dude, you got a good young team, but you're gonna have to
Yeah,
start dwelling out some money. And Aaron Rodgers
exactly.
is making a lot. You know what I'm saying? Aaron
Yep.
Rodgers is making a lot, especially if he's saying he wants to play for 2 to 4 more years. That's gonna cost you a pretty penny. And Rodgers hasn't been known to really take a discount like that. So I'm curious, right? All right, so you got Garrett Wilson, Sauce
Mhm.
Gardner, Brees Hall, all due to probably get paid around the same time.
Yep.
You personally, if you could only keep two, who are you keeping out of those
You,
three?
you know what's crazy, man? So this is gonna directly conflict with what I'm gonna talk to you about later on in regards to the
Hmm.
season, right? I'm keeping Sauce and Garrett.
Okay.
I'm keeping Sauce and Garrett, and I love Brees Hall. I really do, man. I think this guy is elite. I really do believe he's that dog. Like, he's him. But when it comes down to it, I think it's so much harder to go ahead and find that wide receiver one. It's so much harder to find that cornerback one. It's
Shut down
it's
corner.
more
Yep.
it's hard. It's hard to do. I think we can't let Sauce walk. We can't let Garrett walk. If we have to pick between those three guys,
Yeah.
um, and trust me, the day comes where that's going to become the real. I'm going to be very upset because I do love Brees Hall. But
Yeah.
if you're telling me right now, gun to my head, I can only keep two. It's GW, and it's going to be freaking Sauce.
Yeah. Dude, speaking from, the Saquon Barkley fiasco,
Yeah.
we just went through that.
Yep.
Running backs, unfortunately, are kind of getting phased out, and it's just like they're not players, they're more of luxury pieces, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like for a team like the Eagles that, for a team like the 49ers that need that one extra playmaker,
Mhm.
it's not something you build a team around. You build a team around offensive line, quarterback, defensive line, and then like I said, some secondary pieces as well. Like running back is the last valued piece. So I mean, yeah, I get it, and that's why it's impaired. Brees Hall is going to go after his money. Let's put it
Oh
like
yeah.
that. Like
He
when it
has to.
comes down to, because running backs really only get one big payday. They really
Exactly.
do,
Yep.
especially with how they are. So Sauce Gardner will get probably multiple paydays. Garrett Wilson as well will probably get multiple paydays, but Brees Hall will probably only get one. So it's going to be
One.
difficult. So, since we're on players, give me your impact player for the New York Jets in 2024. Who is that guy that needs to perform well for the Jets to finally break the drought and make the playoffs?
All right, like I said before, this was going to conflict. I knew this was coming. This was going to
Mm-hmm.
conflict with what I just said, right? In terms of the impact player, and a lot of people are going to say Aaron Rodgers, and I do believe Aaron Rodgers is going to play a huge component. But again, at 40 years old, coming off that Achilles injury, I'm being way more reserved in regards to expectations. I think the floor for Aaron Rodgers, I'm sorry, the floor for Aaron Rodgers is going to be what we saw him do in 2021 last year in Green Bay, or 2022 last year in Green Bay. And I'm okay with that. I would still put him as a top 10 to 12 quarterback in the NFL. And that to me is fine, right? I think that's where he can be at. Can he be a top five guy? It's Aaron Rodgers. I'm not going to go ahead and pretty much strike him out. But I got him at like that top 10, top 15 range in terms of quarterback play this season. Impact player for me, man, is Brees Hall.
Mm-hmm.
I think Brees Hall is going to be RB1 by season's end. Everything that I'm looking at, every metric that I've looked at, what he was able to accomplish last year when defenses didn't respect the Jets offense whatsoever, like they literally focused on trying to stop him and they still couldn't stop him. I think this year when defenses have to play honest and they got to go ahead and look at it and decide, like, man, if we stack the box, then Aaron Rodgers can eat us up with Garrett Wilson, with Mike Williams, with Malachi Corley, or with freaking um any one of our tight ends. Like I think that's going to go ahead and be the deciding factor on defensive lines. He's going to have one-on-one matchups, and I think Brees Hall is going to dominate in those opportunities. He hasn't had a chance to see that as an NFL player, as a professional football player. He hasn't had a chance to see defenses play honest when it comes to playing the Jets, and he's going to get a chance to see that. I've got the guy going for freaking close to 2,000 scrimmage, all-purpose scrimmage yards. I got him being the offensive player of the year candidate. I think Brees Hall needs to I don't even want to say elevate his game. I think if even he plays at the same level as last year, he's going to hit those freaking marks because he's not going to have to worry about those stack boxes, right? So I think if Brees Hall plays like he did last year, by the way, coming off of an ACL injury, he's going to be the offensive player of the year this year because I think he's going to add more yards and more touchdowns to his resume purely because of teams got to play honest defense against the Jets. So for me, it's Brees Hall. I think Brees Hall is going to be the impact player. I think the offense is going to go as he goes. Can Aaron Rodgers, win some games? Obviously, with the ball on his arm, yes, he can. But in terms of the consistency aspect and in terms of keeping everybody fresh, we're going to go ahead and ride. We're going to ride Brees Hall all the way to the season's end. And I think by the end of the season, he will overtake Christian McCaffrey as running back one. And you're going to see him be Offensive Player of the Year. I also think he's going to get a couple of MVP votes. I think Brees Hall is going to be that dude for us this year.
Okay. All right. I mean, I like Brees Hall. I do. You know what I'm saying? I think he's a solid player. I think for you guys, Garrett Wilson needs to continue to be, he needs to continue the trajectory that he's on.
Right.
And if you can get 1,000 yards with Zach Wilson, just imagine what you can get with Aaron Rodgers. Obviously, this all depends on the health of Aaron Rodgers because, if Aaron Rodgers goes down, it changes that whole dynamic. Rodgers force feeds his wide receivers. We saw that with Devontae Adams. I've seen so many games, Rodgers in Green Bay, they're at the 1 yard line. He checks out of a run, throws a quick slant. Garrett Wilson gets an easy touchdown. I could see that. I could definitely see that. And yeah, like you said, if Garrett Wilson does take the pressure off, it will open up things for a guy like Brees Hall and stuff like that. So I'm right there with you as far as both of them. So my pick would definitely be Garrett Wilson, but I agree with you as far as I could see Brees Hall having a good year as well, another solid year. 2,000 all-purpose yards isn't that difficult to get, especially if you have a dynamic offense and a defense and you guys that can get the other team off the field and give the offense, more opportunities. So I could see that.
Yeah, man. So, I mean, Garrett Wilson to me also has to go ahead and ball out this year. Like I'm with you on that. I believe that wholeheartedly. I do believe Garrett Wilson is wide receiver one, and I think the drop off after him is kind of significant. Not to disrespect Mike Williams or Malachi Court or anything like that, but I think there's massive separation of Garrett Wilson and then our wide receiver too. Yes, they're good. They're good wide receivers. I think Williams is a good wide receiver. I think Malachi Corley can be a good wide receiver, but I think Garrett Wilson, we're talking top 10 conversation, top 5 maybe when it comes to what he can accomplish with a legitimate quarterback throwing him the ball. But yeah, if Garrett Wilson takes another step as well, is he Offensive Player of the Year? I don't know. And you know what? I wouldn't be mad about it if that's how it winds up happening. The New York Jets haven't had an Offensive Player of the Year candidate. And I can't remember the last time maybe Brandon Marshall was mentioned as one of the potential Offensive Player of the Year candidates in the year he had with us. That was a long time ago, bro. Yeah. But yeah, so it's been a minute. So get to be in this situation to have this conversation with you where we can talk Garrett Wilson or freaking Brees Hall, 2 of our young studs being potentially the catalyst of at their position groups it's just mind-boggling to me as a Jets fan. It's been so freaking long.
Yeah. Dude, I mean, yeah, dude, I know. I know you guys are like so thirsty for something. Like talking to Jet fans, they're like, I don't care. I just want to be in the big game. That's what it comes down to. Like you said, longest drought in American sports. You know what I'm saying? Like yeah, I get it. I'd be like that too, where it's like, yo, just get me in the dance and stuff like that.
Just get us there, man. Just get us there.
Exactly. So, all right, strengths and weaknesses of the team. Run that by me real quick. What do you think?
All right. In terms of strengths, I do believe in terms of our defense. I don't think there's a question about that. I think our defense is going to be another lights out year. I think we've added some pieces that's literally tailored to getting after the quarterback on the defensive line. I think our secondary is second to none. Love our linebacker core. I love how much Quincy Williams has grown over the last couple of years as a New York Jet. When it comes to our biggest strength on this team, to me, it's the defense. I think the defense, without question, is the heart and soul of the team. I think we're going to be as successful as good as they are, right? Like, yeah, can we go ahead and win some games offensively? But the defense is going to be what I think puts us in that AFC East champions conversation, that potential freaking like AFC championship game. The defense, I think, is going to be what ultimately leads us there because they're going to do some amazing things. If I had to give you a weakness in terms of our defense, I would believe it's going to be the defensive tackle position, right? Some people are going to say safety, but I happen to be a really big fan of Chuck Clark. I think not getting to see him play last year kind of sucked because, again, another ACL injury that took out one of our guys. I think Chuck Clark was a great addition last year that we got kind of robbed of. But I believe that what he brings to the table is going to be, if not on par with, better than what we had last year in the safety room because he's more of a high IQ guy and more of a sure tackler. But the defensive tackle position, man, I was worried about the run game last year. We seemed to go ahead and struggle mightily in terms of stopping the big runs. Getting rid of our big guy in Al and not really replacing him. We got rid of JFM as well, who was known as being a guy who can come into the interior and help with the run stopping. I don't know, man. Kinlaw hasn't proven to be a guy that can go ahead and really stop the run much. I know Quinnen Williams is one of the top defensive tackles in the NFL that can do it, but I mean, when it comes to the running game, he's going to be seeing a lot of double teams. So I'm worried about that, right? The run stopping component. So that would be the weakness I would give on the defensive side. Now, when it comes to the offensive side of the football, man, if I'm being honest, man, I love the running back room. I love our tight end room. I like our wide receiver room. I think we've gotten spoiled over the years and thinking that you needed 2 wide receiver 1s on your wide receiver room for you to be considered a good wide receiver room. Not everybody can have a Miami Dolphins wide receiver room or
No.
the Eagles wide
Yeah.
receiver room. Like it's a rare thing to have 2 guys who could literally be wide receiver 1s on a roster. So I think when I look at our wide receiver room, I like how it's laid out, right? You got Mike Williams as your 2, Malachi Corley potentially being the 3. Gibson's on the come up in terms of being that slot guy that a lot of people kind of like. And Alan Lazard being wide receiver 4, maybe even 5 on our team, I think is a good problem to have, right? Like, I think we all hated his guts last year as wide receiver 2. Definitely too high up on the on the food chain for him. But
It
at
would have
the
been
4 or
different
4
though
or
if
5,
Rogers was there. Though it would have been different if
this
Rogers
is
was there
also true.
because that's Rogers' boy. You know what I'm saying?
That's his
Like
boy.
they have the biggest thing is they have chemistry together. You know what I'm saying? So if
Facts.
Rogers was healthy, Lazard gets numbers. Like they're too compatible with each other to not be able to eat. So I mean, I'm right there with you as far as your
Yeah,
wide receivers. Like when it comes to wide receivers, you don't. I feel like you need a bunch of different guys that do a bunch of different
that do
things.
different
You
things.
got Garrett
Exactly.
Wilson, who's a stud, right? Williams can beat you over the top. You know what I'm
Yep.
saying? Like he's that type of dude. He's a boom or bust type player. You know what I'm saying? So you need a bunch of guys that can do different things. Alan Lazard can line up in the slot. He can do a bunch of different things as well. That's what you kind of need to have a good wide receiver room, in my opinion.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. Um, and then I guess for me, it's going to be the interior offensive line, right? I think if I
Mm-hmm.
had to go ahead and look at the offense and tell you I'm worried about one position, it's the interior offensive line. I would love for us to bring back a guy like McGovern to kind of go ahead and alleviate some of those concerns. I know they just brought in a dude from the UFL that they feel pretty good about. I have no idea how good he can be. So looking forward to getting more feedback about him during training camp. But the interior offensive line right now, for me, I think lacks depth in terms of the ability to rotate. Yeah, we're top heavy on the offensive line, but the interior offensive line specifically is top heavy, and we don't have that depth. So that's concerning to me when it comes to the offense. So in terms of overall weakness, what I say is my biggest concern. I'm 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 going to say the interior offensive line. I think is the
Okay.
biggest weakness. I think because I want every opportunity, like you said, to keep Aaron Rodgers upright, to give him a Tom Brady like atmosphere where he's got that bubble, that protection, so he can go ahead and focus and tear up offenses. I think if we're able to do that, a lot of teams aren't going to be running much because they're going to be trying to catch up because we're going to have leads. So that can alleviate the concerns a little bit about that running game, on the defense side of the football. So for me, the interior offensive line is the New York Jets' biggest weakness. I think we need to go ahead and get a couple of solidified bodies in the building to go ahead and kind of like shore that up.
Yeah. Keys to the New York Jets, though, every game, right? Like you had alluded to, you get out to a big lead is when you could start, feeding Brees Hall. And
Facts.
with good interior offensive line play, you can push the line. He doesn't need a lot of
Exactly.
space. You know what I'm saying? He doesn't need a big hole. You know what I'm saying? Like give him, he can turn those really short runs into something big, you know what I'm saying? And that's how you chew away at the clock. A good running
Yep.
game can be your best friend as soon as, and with the defense that you guys have as well. Solid, you know what I'm saying? Like solid, but health is the biggest thing. Like you have, like you said, you
100%.
have to protect Aaron Rodgers because then it all goes out the window if Rodgers isn't upright. So that brings me into my last question. What are your realistic expectations going into the 2024 season?
All right. So now if we're talking about a fully healthy New York Jets New York Jets team. I got the New York Jets with 13 wins, right? Fully
13
healthy,
wins.
offensive line fully healthy, right, like the quarterback room fully healthy, all that good stuff. That means Tyron Smith gave us a full season too. I got the
Yeah.
Jets going 13-4 if that
Ooh.
was to be the case, right? But realistically speaking, I don't believe that's going to be the case. I don't believe we're going to get everybody on our offensive line for the entire season. I think that's going to be a reach. I still have concerns about Aaron Rodgers at age 40. So I got the Jets realistically, man, going 11-7. I'm
Okay.
sorry, 11-6. 11-6.
Okay.
They're going 11-6 in the division, and that's going to be just enough to potentially win the AFC East between us or the Miami Dolphins.
I was just about to say the same thing. I think it's going to be between you guys or Miami. Buffalo took a huge step back this year. They're going to
Huge
be,
step
yeah,
backwards,
they
man.
huge step back. There's no Bill Belichick anymore, so you guys don't have to worry about the Patriots
Thank
because,
God.
yeah, because Bill Belichick had 2 games circled on the schedule all year, both against the New York
Jets.
Jets.
100%.
Exactly. So I do think you guys, if healthy, like I said, the biggest thing is if
hmm
healthy, if and the biggest thing is obviously Aaron Rodgers. If Aaron Rodgers can stay healthy, I could see double digits, you know what I'm saying, stuff like that, and going into the playoffs. Now, when it comes to the playoffs, the AFC in general is
It's a
stacked.
gauntlet, bro.
Yeah,
It's a
it
freaking
is. You know what I'm
gauntlet.
saying? If you guys were in the NFC, I would have no problem putting you probably in the Super Bowl. But the AFC, Patrick Mahomes is him.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Lamar
Joe Burrow,
Jackson.
yeah, Lamar Jackson, Joe Burrow's looking to bounce back. The
Yeah,
Steelers are
bro.
always competitive. They have
Dolphins.
the Dolphins. That's what I'm saying. I think it's a 2-team race between you guys. I actually think the Dolphins might edge you guys out slightly. Just because we'll see what happens. You know what I'm saying? They have themselves a good roster over there as well. So I could see them, and I could see you guys making a wild card. So basically, what you're telling me is you think, put it on record, man, the drought's gonna be over. You guys are ending the drought this year.
Oh, 100%. 100%.
Okay.
One of my boys, Dano Jets, man, he does his own channel as well. He said something to me that made a 1,000% sense in terms of like reality, right? If either our offensive line or Aaron Rodgers can give us a season, the Jets are freaking going to the playoffs. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. If we lose them both, I think then we're in the hunt for a wild card because the roster is that good. And again, having a competent backup quarterback this time around makes you feel more comfortable than you did last year. So the Jets have done so well in building this roster in the offseason that I think if Tyrod Taylor had to take the helm, I'm not going to sit here and tell you Super Bowl. That's not going to be coming out of me, but I do believe wild card is definitely in the cards if Tyrod Taylor can go ahead and come in there and play some games for us.
Yeah. I might
But yeah,
have to
the
have.
drought ends this year. This is it. This it's a wrap. The New York Jets are going to end that drought and pass that torch on to I don't even know who it is. I think it's the Raiders. I think the Raiders is the second one.
Yeah, I'd have to look. I
I
definitely
have
have
to
to
look
look on
too.
that one. As far
Yeah,
as like we're talking about all sports though, because that's what they're talking about. The Jets All
that's true. This
American
is true.
Sports.
Yeah,
I don't know who's next, but we're gonna see. This is gonna be on the thumbnail. Drought over
yeah,
is gonna
man.
be on the
It's a
thumbnail.
wrap. Got you.
So
Drought is
yeah,
over.
okay,
This is your you can
okay,
book it.
got you. So solid. Like I said, I'm health is the biggest thing. If you guys stay
Mhm.
healthy, yes, you guys built a team. I'm a little bit because we know how football works, right?
Right.
I'm a little bit concerned that the offense for you guys might get going and maybe the defense might take a little step back. Like it doesn't mean you guys are gonna be one of the worst defenses in the league. It means like you've seen it so many times in
Yeah.
football where all of a sudden one facet of the game kind of gets fixed and then the other one kind of takes a small step back. But even if you guys are still top 10 outside the top 5, I still think that you guys will still have a formidable team.
Yeah, now that's a realistic aspect, right? And you've seen it happen quite a bit. But then when I look at our head coach and then I look at the 49ers, how they've consistently maintained a top 5 defense and a top 5 offense, right? Like I realize that tree being what we're trying to go ahead and maintain. I have a hard time seeing the defense taking steps backwards, especially as these guys go yet another year into this system that requires high IQ and a lot of discipline to go ahead and pretty much play your zones and play your positions effectively. So I feel more confident about that because again, this is the defensive side of the football. Also, another component that matters a lot is knock on wood. They've been able to stay healthy as a group as well. So I think that's going to be another thing. We need to see them stay healthy yet for another year. Are we testing the football gods a little bit by hoping that's going to be the case? But yeah, it wouldn't surprise me though if those guys went from the number 3 defense to the number 7 defense in the NFL this season.
Yeah.
Although my belief is if we actually have leads, this defense is built to get after the quarterback.
Yeah.
And they weren't able to do that because they had to play smart when it came to trying to stop teams from continuing to score. But I think if we give them a couple of leads, man, we're going to see truly how good this defensive line really is. Um, and that to me is exciting. Like I think being able to tell those guys, hey, don't worry about don't worry about your gaps or worry about freaking the run, setting the edge. Go get the quarterback. I think that's going to be another level of this defense that we haven't really got a chance to see the last couple of years.
Yeah, yeah. You made a good point too. Like I said, just even take it like taking a step back doesn't, like I said, doesn't mean that they'll be bad, but injuries could
Yeah,
hamper that. You know what I'm saying? Like you just
exactly.
never know. Especially what we talked about. We know that turf monster's out there.
Yep. And
He's
it's
like waiting
hunting.
like this. Like
Yep.
it's just like who
Hunting.
am I gonna get
Who's
from the
next?
Jets or the Giants? Like it's just like the one piece that we need. But hopefully, fingers crossed that both teams stay healthy because I just want to see a good product on the field
On the
from
field.
both teams because as New York Giants and Jets content creators, that's what we want at the end of the
Yeah.
day. It's just a good product that we can be excited about. Even if we fall short, we just want something to talk about it. We just want to feel good about it. But look, man, I appreciate you, man. Tell the people where they can find you at.
Yeah, man, you can find me on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and of course on YouTube. Just type in New York Jets Situation Report. I pop right up. And yeah, I do a live every Tuesday night, a hanger hangout episode every Tuesday night. Every Wednesday, I'm with the Jets Brew. We do an evening brew show as well. So yeah, you can find me on New York Jets Situation Report, man. I'm always streaming. I'm dropping videos, shorts, or even breaking news videos when they pop up.
Cool. That's a dope name too. The Hanger Hangout. That is a
Yeah,
dope name. Always give credit where
appreciate you,
credit's
bro.
due. That's probably the second best Jets name I've heard. Jets Turbulence was a channel. I think that
Jets
they kind of
Turbulence is pretty
that
good.
went under. I don't think
Yeah.
they're still active, but Jets Turbulence is a good
I
fucking
love that
name.
one. When
Yeah.
the name was really catchy. I think they're back though. I think I've seen them kind of like come back full circle. I spoke to the guys not too long ago. They're back in the fold. They're trying to go ahead and get back out there, trying to go ahead and be more positive this time around, right?
Yeah.
As Jets fans. But yeah, Jets turbulence is when
Is
you
there
hear it,
such
you're
a
like,
thing?
I
Is there
mean,
such a thing as a
it's
positive Jet
it's
fan?
it's in the off season, yes. In the off season, you've got a lot of us, man. We're out here. It
Yeah.
gets hard to maintain when the season actually kicks off.
Yeah, of course. And then all of us, yeah, when that season, when it's official, is when you guys start like getting in a panic mode, and you
Yeah,
got to fire this guy, fire that guy. But
yeah.
we're gonna
Patience
see what
runs thin.
happens. Yeah,
Yeah,
we're gonna see
hopefully
what
this isn't the
happens.
year we gotta worry about that.
Yeah. So we'll see what happens. And like I said, appreciate you for coming on, man. Would love to
Yeah,
have
easy
you
day.
back on in the future. This was absolutely incredible. Make sure you guys go over there, like and subscribe to New York Jets Situation Report. This guy was incredible. He knows his stuff about the New York Jets. So make sure you Jet fans all rally behind him and let's get those subs up. Hit that like button. But appreciate all you guys for watching. This is episode 5 Behind the Teams is in the books. Episode 6 will be coming out very soon. So make sure you guys hit that like and subscribe on this video. Thank you guys for watching. As always, thank you for tuning into the Ace Avenue. I am yours truly, the Ace. Adios.